Good evening, everyone. Today we delve into a profound subject that often gets misunderstood or misinterpreted: hardcore spirituality. What does it mean? Is it about extreme asceticism, renouncing the world, or does it signify something more subtle, more powerful? In the modern world, we often see spirituality as something distant, something we practice in specific places, during specific times. But true hardcore spirituality is not about being in a temple, mosque or a shrine. It is not confined to rituals, nor is it about the adoption of an ideology. Hardcore spirituality is about an inward journey, a radical transformation that happens from within, driven by the desire to experience life in its truest, most profound sense. Self-mastery is the cornerstone of true spiritual growth. It is the ability to control one's mind and body, to discipline them in such a way that they no longer dictate your actions or decisions. In today's world, we are constantly surrounded by external stimuli, distractions and impulses that pull our attention in 1,000 different directions. Most people spend their lives responding to these distractions automatically, like puppets on a string, driven by their emotions, habits and the whims of their environment. But self-mastery is about taking the reins of your own life. It begins with awareness. It's about recognizing that your mind and body are not you, they are tools you use. When you can separate yourself from your thoughts and bodily desires, you gain the ability to observe them rather than be controlled by them. This shift in perception allows you to act with clarity, intention and purpose. The mind is like a wild horse, constantly pulling in different directions. Without training, it can lead you into confusion, doubt and mental chaos. Self-mastery means learning to tame this wild horse, guiding it with patience, persistence and discipline. You don't suppress your thoughts or emotions, but you learn to direct them. Instead of being tossed around by every passing thought or impulse, you become the master of your internal world. This requires a deep commitment to inner silence, where the noise of the mind is quieted and only your true, unclouded intelligence shines through. Your body too plays a crucial role in this process. It is easy to fall into unhealthy patterns, overeating, lethargy or indulgence when the body is left to its own devices. But true self-mastery involves treating the body as a sacred vessel, one that is respected and nurtured. Through exercise, mindful eating and regular care, you cultivate a body that is strong, alert and capable of supporting your spiritual and physical endeavors. By establishing control over both mind and body, you create a foundation of balance and strength that allows you to navigate life with confidence and composure. The importance of self-mastery extends to your reactions in the world as well. Most people react to situations based on their past experiences, conditioning and automatic emotional responses. Self-mastery, however, is the ability to respond to any situation with conscious awareness, to choose how you will act rather than being a slave to your emotions or circumstances. It's about recognizing that your reactions are a reflection of your inner state. When you master yourself, you begin to respond with calmness, wisdom and clarity, no matter what the external situation may be. This process of self-mastery is not instantaneous, it requires consistent practice and dedication. It's like chiseling away at a block of stone to reveal the statue hidden within. Every day you work to refine your inner world, to peel back layers of unconscious behavior, and to cultivate a presence that is rooted in awareness and control. Over time, this effort leads to a profound shift where you no longer feel like a victim of your own mind and emotions, but rather an empowered creator of your own life. Ultimately, self-mastery is the art of becoming your own master, of being fully in control of the thoughts, emotions and actions that arise within you. When you achieve this, you unlock a level of freedom that most people only dream of. You are no longer at the mercy of the external world. Instead, you are a centered, balanced and conscious presence, fully engaged in life with clarity, purpose and intention. Living with awareness is a practice that transcends simply being awake or conscious in the literal sense. It's about cultivating a deep, present connection to everything around you, your thoughts, actions, relationships and environment. In a world filled with distractions, living with awareness means stepping out of the automatic, unconscious patterns that dominate most people's lives and actively choosing to experience every moment with full attention and presence. Most of us move through life on autopilot, performing daily tasks without truly engaging with them. We eat meals without tasting the food, walk down the street without noticing the beauty of our surroundings, or have conversations without truly listening to the other person. This kind of living creates a disconnect between us and the life we are experiencing. The mind is often racing to the next task, worrying about the past or planning for the future, leaving little room for simply being in the moment. But living with awareness is about slowing down and reconnecting to each moment as it is without judgment or distraction. To live with awareness is to be completely engaged in whatever you are doing, no matter how small or mundane the task might seem. It's about bringing your full presence to each experience, whether you're drinking a cup of tea, washing your hands, or having a conversation. When you bring awareness to your actions, they become richer and more meaningful. A simple act of drinking water, for example, can become an opportunity to connect with your body, to appreciate the gift of hydration, and to feel grateful for the moment. Awareness is also about observing your thoughts without getting attached to them. Our minds are constantly in motion, creating an endless stream of thoughts, desires, judgments, and worries. But when you live with awareness, you step back and watch these thoughts from a distance. You don't identify with them, nor do you let them control you. You begin to see them for what they are: temporary mental patterns that come and go. This shift allows you to respond to life in a more grounded and conscious way, rather than reacting automatically from a place of unconscious habit. To truly live with awareness is also to understand the impermanence of all things. We often get caught up in the belief that life is predictable, that people's circumstances and possessions will remain as they are. But when you live with awareness, you recognize that everything is in a state of constant change. This understanding allows you to appreciate the fleeting nature of life, to value each moment fully, knowing that it will never come again in the same form. With this awareness, you begin to cultivate a deep sense of gratitude for each experience, no matter how seemingly insignificant it might appear. Furthermore, awareness allows you to cultivate a deeper connection with others. When you are truly present with someone, listening attentively, not just to their words, but to their energy, their unspoken emotions, you begin to understand them at a much deeper level. The quality of your relationship shifts because you are no longer distracted or distant. You become more compassionate, more patient, and more empathetic, because you see others not through the lens of your own projections and judgments, but as they truly are. Living with awareness also extends to the world around you. When you are fully present, the beauty of nature, the sounds of birds, the movement of trees in the wind, and the rhythm of life itself become more vivid and real. You begin to experience the interconnectedness of all things, the way the air you breathe, the food you eat, and the energy around you are all part of one vast system. This awareness fosters a deep sense of respect for life, for nature, and for the world at large. Ultimately, living with awareness is a practice of being fully alive. It's about stepping out of the mechanical way most people live and embracing the fullness of each moment with open eyes, a quiet mind, and a receptive heart. The more you live with awareness, the more you realize that life is not something that simply happens to you, it is something you actively engage with. Every moment becomes an opportunity to experience life in its fullness, to tap into a deeper sense of meaning, and to connect with the world around you in a way that is rich, vibrant, and alive. Transcending the ego is one of the most transformative aspects of spiritual growth. The ego in its simplest form is the sense of self, the I that feels separate from others and from the world. It is the part of us that defines ourselves by labels, identities, experiences, and beliefs. It creates a sense of distinction, often leading us to think, this is who I am, and this is who I am not. It drives our desires, reactions, and judgments, constantly reinforcing the illusion of separateness. But true spiritual growth calls for the dissolution of this illusion, the transcendence of the ego. To transcend the ego is not to deny or repress it, but to go beyond it, to see it for what it truly is: an ongoing process of identification with fleeting thoughts, emotions, and experiences. The ego thrives on identification. We identify with our roles in society, our achievements, our failures, our family, and our possessions. But all of these are transient. The roles we play today may change tomorrow, our achievements will be forgotten in time, and even our body will age and ultimately perish. When we are bound to the ego, we tie ourselves to these impermanent things, mistaking them for our true identity. When you begin to transcend the ego, you start to recognize that the I you have clung to is not the essence of who you are. The core of your being is not defined by your thoughts, your emotions, or your social identity. It is a deeper presence that exists beyond all labels and concepts. It is a pure consciousness that observes the unfolding of life without attachment or judgment. This shift from identification with the ego to identification with this deeper awareness is what spiritual masters speak of when they talk about transcending the ego. As you move beyond the ego, you begin to feel a profound sense of unity with all that is. The boundaries between you and me, between self and other, start to dissolve. You begin to experience the interconnectedness of all life. The ego feeds on division, it creates walls between individuals, cultures, and even nations, reinforcing the idea of us versus them. But when you transcend the ego, these walls fall away. You see the other as part of yourself, not as a separate being to compete with or dominate. You recognize that at the core, all of existence is one unified whole. This shift in perception doesn't happen overnight, it's a gradual process. As you work to dissolve the ego, you start to observe the many ways it manifests in your life. You notice how it causes you to seek validation, to compete with others, to cling to your beliefs, or to protect yourself from vulnerability. You begin to understand how much your life has been driven by the need to preserve and enhance the ego, often at the expense of your true well-being and connection with others. Transcending the ego requires a deep sense of humility. It's about letting go of the need to be right, to be in control, or to be seen as superior. It's about surrendering the compulsion to assert your identity over and above the rest of the world. Humility, in this context, is not about self-deprecation or diminishing your worth. Rather, it's about recognizing that your worth is not defined by any external factors or social recognition. It is inherent in your existence, just as the sun's light is inherent in its being. You are valuable simply because you exist, not because of what you can achieve or what others think of you. Another important aspect of transcending the ego is the practice of selflessness. The ego thrives on self-centeredness, it constantly seeks its own benefit, whether through power, material possessions, or validation. But when you transcend the ego, your actions are no longer driven by self-interest. Instead, you begin to act with a deep sense of service and compassion for others. You no longer see yourself as the center of the universe, but as a small yet integral part of the vast interconnected web of life. This shift from self-centeredness to selflessness opens up new dimensions of love, empathy, and understanding in your relationships with others. Living without the constant need to protect or enhance the ego also allows you to experience true freedom. The ego is a prison, constantly requiring you to defend its image, to prove its worth, and to maintain its sense of superiority. It is a source of constant anxiety and stress, but when the ego dissolves, you no longer feel the need to compete or prove anything. You are free from the chains of comparison, judgment, and fear. You are free to live in harmony with yourself and with the world. Transcending the ego also leads to a deep sense of peace. The ego is the source of all inner conflict, as it creates endless desires, attachments, and fears. It keeps you trapped in a cycle of striving, seeking, and never feeling truly fulfilled. But when you transcend the ego, you find that peace is not something that comes from external circumstances or achievements. It is an inner state that arises naturally when you stop resisting life, when you stop trying to control everything, and when you simply allow yourself to be. Ultimately, transcending the ego is not about erasing the sense of self entirely, but recognizing that the true self is much larger, more expansive, and more connected than the small, isolated, egoic identity we have created. It is about realizing that your essence is the same as the essence of all life, the unchanging, eternal consciousness that underlies everything. When you transcend the ego, you awaken to a new reality, one in which you are not a separate individual struggling through life, but an integral part of the whole, fully alive, fully present, and fully at peace with all that I start. Fearlessness is not the absence of fear, but the ability to face fear without being controlled by it. It is the ability to act with clarity, wisdom and courage, even in the presence of uncertainty, danger or discomfort. Fear is one of the most primal and powerful emotions that governs human behavior. It can paralyze us, limit our potential and prevent us from living fully. Most people live their lives constrained by fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of loss and ultimately fear of death. However, fearlessness is not about eliminating these fears, rather it is about transcending them, understanding their root causes and choosing how we respond to them. At the heart of fearlessness is a deep understanding of the impermanence of all things. Fear often arises from the belief that something is permanent or that we must hold on to it at all costs. We fear losing our loved ones, our possessions, our health, or even our sense of identity. But when we come to realize that everything in life is temporary and in constant flux, whether it is our material wealth, our relationships, or our very bodies, we begin to loosen our attachment to these things. This does not mean we no longer care about them, but rather that we stop clinging to them with the fear of losing them. Understanding the transient nature of life allows us to approach it with a sense of equanimity, letting go of the anxiety that stems from attachment. Fearlessness also emerges from a deep sense of trust in the process of life. Most fears are rooted in a lack of trust in ourselves or the world around us. We fear what we don't know, what we can't control, or what might go wrong. But when we develop a sense of trust in life, in the universe, or in our own ability to navigate challenges, we no longer feel as though we are victims of our circumstances. We learn to approach life with an open heart, ready to embrace whatever comes our way, knowing that every experience, whether perceived as good or bad, is part of the larger journey. This trust empowers us to move forward in the face of uncertainty, even when the outcome is unclear. A significant aspect of fearlessness is the courage to face the unknown. The unknown is inherently frightening because it represents a realm where we have no control, no guarantees and no certainties. However, fearlessness is about embracing the unknown, stepping into it with the understanding that growth and transformation lie beyond the limits of our comfort zones. The moment we step into the unknown, we release our need for certainty and control. We begin to experience life more fully, not from a place of fear, but from a place of curiosity and adventure. Each moment of uncertainty becomes an opportunity for discovery, learning and growth. Fearlessness is also connected to the dissolution of the ego. The ego thrives on fear because it is invested in maintaining control, protection and security. It fears loss, it fears failure, and it fears anything that threatens its sense of identity. When we transcend the ego and begin to experience ourselves as part of something much greater, something beyond the individual self, we find that our fears lose their power over us. Fear is an emotion that arises from the belief in separation. When we experience a sense of unity with all of existence, we realize that there is nothing to fear because we are not separate from the world, nor are we isolated in our experience. Everything that happens is a part of the larger flow of life, and we are part of that flow. Service to the whole is the recognition that our lives are not isolated, they are deeply interconnected with the lives of others, with nature and with the universe as a whole. It is the realization that true fulfillment does not come from self-centered pursuits, but from acting in ways that contribute to the well-being of all. In a world where individualism and personal success are often prioritized, service to the whole is a radical shift in perspective. It is the understanding that our actions, no matter how small, impact the greater fabric of life. When we serve the whole, we step out of the narrow confines of self-interest and embrace the broader vision of collective well-being. At the core of service to the whole is the idea that we are not separate from others. The ego, which thrives on the notion of separateness, feeds on the illusion that we are distinct from the people and the world around us. It encourages competition, division and self-preservation at the expense of others. But when we transcend the ego and realize our interconnectedness, we see that the happiness and suffering of others are intricately tied to our own. We begin to act in ways that support the greater good, not just our individual desires. This is not a self-sacrificial act, but a recognition that the well-being of others directly enhances our own sense of fulfillment, joy and purpose. Living in service to the whole means engaging in actions that promote harmony, peace and growth, not just for ourselves, but for the entire community, society, and the world at large. It can manifest in simple acts of kindness such as helping a neighbor, sharing knowledge with others, or being compassionate in times of difficulty. It extends to larger, more intentional actions like working towards social justice, environmental sustainability, or contributing to causes that uplift the collective spirit of humanity. It means using our resources, time, energy, skills, and love not for personal gain but for the benefit of all. This mindset also involves seeing beyond our immediate circle of family and friends. Service to the whole transcends tribal boundaries, extending to people from different cultures, religions, and backgrounds. It recognizes that all human beings, regardless of their differences, share a common need for love, respect, and dignity. When we serve the whole, we no longer see them and us, but rather we see the shared humanity in all people. This inclusivity fosters compassion, empathy, and understanding, and it allows us to transcend the divisions that so often create conflict and strife in the world. The principle of service to the whole also includes the natural world. Often human beings see themselves as separate from nature, as masters of the earth, rather than as part of it. But true service to the whole includes not only serving fellow humans but also taking responsibility for the well-being of the planet. This can manifest in actions that protect the environment, conserve resources, and promote sustainability. It means recognizing that our survival is directly tied to the health of the ecosystems around us, and thus the service to the whole includes stewardship of the earth, ensuring its resources are preserved for future generations. Caring for nature as well as for each other becomes a part of the spiritual practice of living in harmony with the world. Moreover, service to the whole is about offering without expectation of return. The ego often conditions us to think in terms of I give and I receive. We act with the hope that our kindness or generosity will be reciprocated or that we will gain something in return. However, true service requires letting go of such expectations. It is about offering our time, energy, and resources freely and without attachment to the outcome. It is not about accumulating credit or recognition for our actions, but simply about giving because it is the right thing to do, because it nurtures the whole and contributes to the greater good. The joy of serving the whole comes from the deep satisfaction of knowing that we are part of something much larger than ourselves. When we help others or contribute to the welfare of the world, we experience a profound sense of unity and connection. Our actions become an extension of our true self, not something we do for personal gain or recognition. This sense of service expands our consciousness, allowing us to see the world not as a collection of separate entities, but as a vast, interconnected whole. In this way, service becomes a spiritual practice, a way of aligning ourselves with the deeper truth of existence, that we are all part of the same universal flow. Living in service to the whole also invites us to live with humility. It is the recognition that we are not the center of the universe, but that our individual well-being is deeply intertwined with the well-being of others. Humility allows us to approach service with an open heart, without a sense of superiority or self-righteousness. We are not serving to elevate ourselves or to gain accolades, we are serving because it is an expression of our innate connection to all life. It is a humble acknowledgement that we are part of the larger web of existence, and that by contributing to the welfare of others, we are fulfilling our role in the cosmic order. Moreover, true service requires a willingness to embrace discomfort and challenge. It is not always easy to serve others, especially when it involves personal sacrifice, effort, or when others may not appreciate our contributions. But service to the whole means doing what is necessary, not for immediate reward or recognition, but because it contributes to the greater harmony and balance of life. It teaches us to act from a place of love and compassion without the expectation of immediate gratification. This type of service transforms us, expanding our capacity for empathy, patience, and resilience. Ultimately, living in service to the whole is a way of living with purpose and meaning. It gives our lives direction and depth, as we recognize that our individual existence is part of something far greater. By serving the whole, we cultivate a sense of fulfillment that transcends material success or personal achievement. It is the realization that in the end, what we contribute to the world and to the lives of others is what truly endures. Service becomes a path to spiritual awakening, where every act of kindness, every effort to help, and every moment of compassion becomes an offering to the universe, an offering that ripples out into the world, creating a more harmonious and interconnected existence for all. In the end, service to the whole is not just an act of giving, it is an act of awakening. It is the realization that the more we contribute to the well-being of others, the more we grow into our true selves. When we serve with an open heart, we dissolve the illusion of separateness and experience the profound unity that connects us all. Every gesture of kindness, every selfless act ripples out into the world, creating a wave of positive change that touches lives in ways we may never fully understand. As we move through life, let us remember that true fulfillment comes not from what we accumulate or achieve for ourselves, but from how we contribute to the greater good. May we all embrace the path of service, knowing that in serving the whole, we are not only helping to create a better world for others, but also a deeper, richer life for ourselves. In that service, we find the essence of love, connection and purpose, and in that, we find our deepest freedom. Thank you.